Time. All right, old business, cell phone tower update. We did get the official contract and to look at prior to the meeting on the 26th of October. So if the committee is good with that, I will send this out via from the Building Grounds Committee for the entire school board to look at, and then with the motion to approve it at the board meeting on the 26th.
I'm fine with it.
Okay with me, Carl.
Okay. Work that needs to be done on their annual or their biannual preventative maintenance that they do on a quarterly basis. They're in the buildings, changing air filters and lubricating necessary areas of the system and everything. They identified a couple areas that need to be addressed. It is we did check warranty on this work, and unfortunately the warranty has expired on some of these items. We have a heat wheel belt that needs to be replaced on an air handler unit. We have we need to drain and recharge the heating, cooling, source water, and domestic water expansion tanks in the building. And then we also need to address a VFD touchpad screen assembly and program, start, test, and verify proper unit operation for our heating pump unit. It had a malfunction in the touchpad screen assembly that needs to be addressed. So those three items, we are looking to have HD lines addressing those buildings as soon as possible.
Hey Kyle, this is Joy.
Yep.
So this stuff is pretty new. Is it the case that the warranty never covered these items, or the warranty was only for 1 year?
Some of these items were, I believe, addressed at the onset. That I know the heat wheel belt had failed on the AHU unit, so that was not under warranty. I know we checked on that. The heating pump touchpad screen was not under warranty. And then the exhaust water expansion tanks had to be drained because they had filled up, so that wasn't a warranty issue either. So those three items were not under warranty anymore with the warranty that was covered within those items.
Have you had a conversation with HT Lines? Do they consider it peculiar that we're having problems with these items, given that they're, it's all a brand new installation?
They have identified some areas of concern in the building, and we have had some conversations with them on possible remedies to some of their concerns. Some of it has to do with some piping concerns, and as far as a flow issue with some of the units. They just did the preventive maintenance in the building this past week, and they're going to identify some other areas of possible considerations of work that may or may not be done to that building. And once they do that, we could definitely, I'll definitely get a thorough, inspection of the units and stuff. But right now, they were just there doing preventive maintenance and identified these issues that needed to be addressed as far as a complete, thought process on some of the units and what could function properly and what they could do and may not do with the facility. We haven't really sat down and done that yet. We haven't really got to that point because it's just, it hasn't been to the point where we needed to identify anything like this. This was just areas that have either failed or had a part failed or something that needed to be addressed that was identified on their routine maintenance.
Right. I mean, it sounds a little bit like you're saying that perhaps the installation of the piping was incorrect or poor, and that it's causing problems with the equipment. Is that what you're indicating?
I'm not. The piping for the, right now the expansion tanks just needed to be drained. That was the thing that they had to do originally, and I know the way that the expansion tanks were set up, they had to repipe some stuff to put a drain valve in there to have the ability to drain those tanks, and that was something that they had to do. The one quote was for like $1,300 to drain and recharge the heating, cooling, and source water and domestic water expansion tanks. So that's just for that. But as far as the other piping stuff, they didn't necessarily identify areas that they would have feel that they need to be piped differently. But again, like I said, this is just the preventive maintenance and stuff they identified. I'm sure we could have set up a meeting with them to walk the building or identify the mechanical room and see if there's areas in there that they have concern that would consider. So I wouldn't say that they've identified the piping issue at this point. It's just some stuff that they have identified on the preventive maintenance that they were just here the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Elementary center, that's it with what I have for the elementary center in that building. Athletic fields and grounds, no real update on that. We are in the last regular season week for majority of our sports, and then a couple sports carry over. Football has 3 more weeks, and field hockey goes into next week in the regular season. So we're kind of wrapping up the fall sports season, and I know Larry McCulling's planning on coming to the field house in the next, either this week or next week, to look at the winterizing that facility. I know that was discussed previously at the building grounds committee of having him and look at it and send us an official proposal. I know he got real busy over the summer, so we reached out to him about 2 or 3 weeks ago and reminded him, we're getting near the end of October, and we'd like to have that addressed. So he was planning on coming either this week or next week. to look at the facility and give us an exact idea on the winterizing of that facility, because we definitely want to do that. As far as equipment, no real equipment concern.
Kyle?
Yes.
I just noticed that Dave Bradley has his hand raised.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll touch base with that once we get through the agenda. As far as equipment, there's no real equipment needs at this time. For the district, there's no equipment concerns or anything at this time. As far as in new business, any panelists or committee members, any concerns or new business that they wish to discuss, and then we'll turn it over to public comment again.
Okay, question, Kyle. Did we get flags to be replaced at all the buildings yet?
I believe some of them were. We did kind of mostly as needed. I know in the middle school was replaced. Some of the other ones we had, I don't think we replaced all, but they weren't as bad as the middle school. So the middle school did get replaced, but the other buildings, I couldn't tell you if we did or didn't at this point.
I can tell you the elementary center did not.
Okay.
And it looks kind of seedy is the word I would use at this time.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking if we don't have the flags, I would rather see the flag taken down than having that one up at the elementary center. And also my other question would be, I know our roads aren't the best around the high school going out toward 9th Street and that. Are we doing or planning on doing any repairs before winter, like in patchwork and that?
Yeah, we're always, as areas of concern pop up, we have the ability to go get material to fill those areas. So that could be something that we look to address before it gets too cold here.
I mean, I know the guys are busy and that, but like you say, the seasons are starting to wrap up, and before it does get winter, I just thought maybe some of these, I'll say, larger holes could be replaced, filled in, whatever, for safety during the winter. And
Yeah, last year we were able to get some hot patch before it got too cold, and that helped. We were able to fill in some large areas with that, as opposed to doing cold patch. Once we get too far into the winter, so we'll look to get some of that material to fill in those areas around the district property.
And last but not least, looking around as I finally actually started getting out walking again. Thank you to our grounds crew. I think the grounds in general really look great, so thank you very much for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Joy or Wayne, anything else to add, or anything else before we turn it over to public comment?
Nope, I just agree with Stevie. Our athletic fields really look great for this time of the year, keeping the grass nice and green and trimmed, and so hopefully things keep going good. That's all I got to say.
I have no comments.
All right, Mr. Cleaver, any public comment?
Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, I have a couple. So, first of all, I have to ask, the proper governance is important to this government school. So, I highly recommend that the committee members are the ones that run the meeting, that oversee the subordinate administration when they have these meetings. So that if someone has a hand raised or someone decides that they have an issue, that the board members can decide whether it's pertinent or not and then bring it up at the timely fashion. When you go back to the problem with the elementary center, which is relatively new and we're having some issues, I have to question as a governance issue, do we have Kyle trained properly to make sure, and I don't want to sound insulting, Kyle. I mean, we know your experience level on these areas, but did you go through training and are you still continuing with your educational training on maintenance managing for these facilities and these buildings and these things, or are you just taking the information given to you by our subcontractors? And if so, I highly recommend that this board sends you out for training so that you can be responsible and accountable with keeping these systems in line, keeping them working for our students. This is a very critical area, air quality and other issues. So it sounds to me like you need extra professional training in that regard, and I think the district should pay for it. Do you feel that you have enough information to do this, and would you like to get trained?
I would, I think you could always learn stuff, so I welcome any type of additional training, whether it's, or whatever options are out there. So yeah, I'm never gonna turn down additional training opportunities that could benefit the district.
Right, and any organization that would recognize that its employees are its most valuable asset would realize that the stronger we make our employees, the stronger our team is. So thank you for being understanding that there's a value to that. And there's a lot of training out there available within this industry. And just from listening to the conversation, I think it's needed. And again, that's just an observation. And secondly, they had some issues up in Scranton related to air quality and water quality. Is our district being tested on a yearly basis? Are we releasing those tests to the public so that they can recognize that we are meeting the standards? And if they are not meeting the standards, are we taking corrective actions immediately to ensure that we are meeting those standards? I did not hear anything about that in this meeting. I apologize. I did get a couple calls in between. Did that get addressed? Board members?
Sorry, the question was whether we do annual testing or
Well, we have
monthly
to.
testing?
We have to. We have to do annual testing. That's a given. There's some doubt in the world because of what took place at another district with the lack of transparency. It would be my great advice that this committee recommends to the board that we publish our findings openly without any need to incur costs in a right to know request or without any need to incur cost with our solicitor and all the other oppression of information that's been going on within this district, and we just release it. We just say, hey, these were the last 5 years tests that we had for air quality. These are the last 5 years tests we had for our water quality, each of the locations, and just make them public. There's nothing wrong with making them public. And then we can all recognize that we're doing our job and take credit for doing our job and being held accountable with the free, lawful transparency that's available to us. Now, it would require our superintendent to release those documents without a right to know request, which is easy to do. He has that authority with immunity, by the way. But at the same time, I think this board has to direct him to do that because I don't think he sees the value in doing it himself. So Joy or Steve or Wayne, can you please be proactive and make that suggestion as a director to make sure this board and this government agency moves forward? End of comment.
I'll support that.
Just for clarification regarding Mr. Bradley's request, immediately was received, and Kyle, I believe you are actually in the process of gathering all that information for them.
Yeah, as far as the water quality test, it's a monthly test done by a company, and we have reports for each building. Along with it's all borough water. So additional, we have monthly tests that the company comes in and checks each building and then sends us that information. And then as far as the air quality, that's kind of, I we're still looking to see what type of material. I know JMSI is involved and some other groups, so we're still looking to see what material we have on that.
So as soon as we have that information, we can release it. Ms. Bose?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'd like Joy's question to be answered. The warranty on the systems that you were talking about in the EC, was it only a 1-year warranty? Because we were told that there was a construction warranty for 5 years when it was built.
Depending on the equipment, for example, some of the bigger equipment like pumps and those things throughout the district are 5 years. As far as a warranty, most of the warranties were 1 year, which included labor. So I know the warranties that we have, labor-wise, is only for 1 year, but some of the bigger equipment does come with a 5-year guarantee. But to go through and say exactly what equipment that is, most of it is heating and air conditioning equipment.
Yeah, I was just
We
going
do
to ask
check
that.
on those. Yeah, we do check on those immediately to make sure, because even at the middle school and high school, we still are in contact with McClure. Anytime there's a situation, we look to warranty, and also we look to see what we have on file as far as the O&M manuals that we have to see if there's any type of warranty that can be addressed when we have a situation.
Yeah, just to add, all the warranties are item specific. So it would have to be a specific item to identify exactly what that warranty is. And like Mr. Cleaver said, that are all identified in the O&M manuals for that building by area, plumbing, heating, cooling system, and so on. So even down to, the carpet and other items that were installed. So it would be an item specific to identify the exact warranty.
Okay, but given the cost of the system, it's kind of disheartening that it's already having problems. My next question is on the roofing, or the new roof for the administration building. Has anything been done on that?
We have had estimates. Actually, Tremco was, I believe, was the last company. I think we actually met with them, I believe, to look at our situation and see what would be the most cost-effective measures to address the leaking areas within the building. They did take pictures and to show us some of the areas, and we did address them with our maintenance guys to go in and get some of the nail pops that they noticed in some of the other areas that were damaged that we could address them.
Was anyone able to find the source of the leak?
The exact source, we just the areas when they were up there, any areas that had damage, whether they were the exact source, the leak, we're not aware of at this time. But any areas that they had shown us, we did address immediately with our maintenance crew at this point.
And has the leak been stopped?
There's been several areas. I would have to double check to see. I don't know, Kyle, if anything within the last lack of rain, we had other than these last 2 days. I'm not aware of anything, but I don't want to, without double checking, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything reported in the last couple of months, but if anything, it would probably show up, today or from the amount of rain we had. So every time we get some type of precipitation, we're still identifying areas of concern. But we'll continue to address the areas and continue to look at options on that roofing system.
Well, you do understand the concern is mold and then mold mitigation, which would be very expensive. And I realize that with COVID, you couldn't go forward with it over the summer, but it's certainly that who knows if we're going to have a cold winter and a snow load. But it would certainly be a good idea to get as much addressed as possible before the winter. Now, my next question is on the, you said about winterizing the field house. Are you talking about the field house at the new stadium?
Correct. The one at the old stadium's actually already been winterized because we're done using that facility already this year.
Right, well, I get that with the issues, there that you can't use it. Do you have any idea when the new stadium will be winterized?
It all depends on the schedule of athletic events that we're hosting there right now. There will be through the end of October for sure. It'll be used and probably into early November, depending on qualification of our teams in playoffs and playoff games and so on and so forth. So um, it's hard to put a date in mind because I'm not sure how long the facility will be used at this point. But my hope is to have them in here this week or next week, identify what they have to do, let us know any costs associated with it, and then the plan was upon we could get that scheduled relatively quickly on that point after that, and then the initial time that they're going to winterize it, they're going to have our personnel there, show them how to do it and everything, and then hopefully, next year when the time comes, we won't have to, contract with them on it. Our personnel will be able to do that facility without help from another contractor.
Okay, I understand that, but is there any, thoughts of holding districts this year? Or
Uh,
voting for it?
we would not host anything indoor. Um, I think the
I'm
opportunity to
talking
host.
about at the stadium.
Correct. I'm answering your entire question. We're not going to host any indoor facilities, but outdoor facilities, we did throw in the opportunity to host. It all depends on, crowd size and a lot of factors and other avenues. I'm not saying we're going to host anything, but we did put it in that we could be an option to host outdoor facilities if needed.
Well, I'm concerned because, um, it's been repeatedly asked to get the information on how much money we made hosting districts, and it's never been released to my knowledge. And certainly with the financial issues we're having, we certainly can't afford to take a hit financially on hosting districts. I'm sure there are other places that have offered, and maybe we should forego it this year and get that, field house winterized so we're not paying $12,000 and $13,000 a month for electric to heat it. End of comment.
Mr. Spots, they've all had opportunity to speak.
I believe Dave Bradley has his hand raised again.
Oh, is this not from? Yes, sir.
Thank
No,
you.
It was the same comment.
No, it was not,
Okay.
and I appreciate it. So, Kyle, I pulled up the budget, so I need a board member to ask this question of our administration to follow protocol. So I'll speak to you, Wayne, and Steve, since I think you're more up to date with the budget and what's going on. But the total maintenance budget for plant services this year is $2,974,000 and some change, of which $900,000 was salaries and over $1 million was benefits. So I'm first of all curious that we had to take an exception to why we're paying more money in benefits than we are in salaries. That's a cause for concern and within the budget allotment. But it only shows that we have $461,000 in supplies, and it sounds like we're having some maintenance issues. I'm wondering how much of these maintenance issues were budgeted. You have a lot of budgeted services, right, for professional and technical services and property services and purchase services, but you only have, of the almost $3 million in maintenance costs, you only have about $400,000 in supplies. I'd like our administration to identify what those budgeted items were so that we know if we're on course. And since you're 4 months in, a third of the way through the year, did we spend roughly $120,000 already, or are we going to be behind budget again in those areas? Can someone on the board please instruct our subordinate administration to give a review to the board related to what was on the supplies, number 600 for maintenance, $461,000 budgeted, and how far along we are, and why we have employee benefits greater than salaries on those line items. And what did we anticipate for purchases with the upcoming issues, so we don't go over budget again. Thank you. End the comment. Your lead, Steve or Wayne?
We could get that information around. I mean, they gotta do meet. I mean, and look at your budget and give them more of a breakdown. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, we could get the building and grounds expense report put together. I mean, we run a monthly report on that, and so that wouldn't be hard to put together.
Kyle, anything else?
I do not have anything else. Looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
There's a second to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.